I have no idea what I just listened to, but I'll just move forward. Yeah, let me at least bring the Lions into the mix. And if you want to call about the Pistons thing, I'm down. It's disgusting. It's an awful product, and I really just don't understand how Dwayne Casey skates on it. But let me mix the Lions in. It's important. I'm not going to yell and scream. I'm not happy, but it's a mix of sad and mad because Christmas Eve, the Lions did something that we haven't seen them do in a long time. They didn't compete. Now, if you play and you lose, that's frustrating. You can be bummed out. You could be angry. They got their ass kicked. I mean, they got absolutely murdered by Carolina. And with it, what went out the window was the control your own destiny scenario. Because on that same day, Washington lost, Seattle lost, the Giants lost. Everybody you needed to lose lost. And a win in Carolina would have put you in a control your own destiny situation. That's gone. But here's my question. I think it is vitally important that they win their last two games to put a winning record on the board. I think it's important. Now, mind you, if they get to 9-8, I think there's a decent shot they creep in. But whether they do or don't is now in other people's hands. But I think it's important to win the last two for a team in this town, put up a winning record. It's been years. You know, the Wings are flirting with it. They're probably going to fall short. The Tigers are nowhere close. The Pistons are nowhere close. And about 2 months ago, you were nowhere close either. But you rallied. You played good football. You went on the road multiple times and beat multiple teams that are in a playoff chase. I know the anger will come in if they lose either of these next two games. I want to know if you want them to win the last two or you need them to win the last two. Because I do place a lot of importance when you're building something. I think to be able to say, hey, we went from 1-6 to 9-8. We finished with a winning record. And you know what? I still do believe at 9-8, you got a decent shot to get in. You do. We're not going to play all those scenarios today. There's no reason. But right here, right now, I want to know where you're at with your team. The sting of Christmas Eve, it wears off. I'm not going to sit here yelling and screaming about it, but no, I'm not happy. But, like, they got to win these last two. Got to. And we talked about it. I was nervous about that Jet game before I went on vacation. I told you the same thing with Carolina. When you go on the road late, you've been red hot. It felt like the Lions showed up in Carolina assuming they were going to win. It just felt that way watching it. Carolina went right down the field on them. Carolina, very little resistance. And, yeah, I mean, I hate to tell you it happens, but it happens. But now, okay, I need you to respond, and I need you to win these last two games. I still think you can get in. I still think at 9-8, the season would be a success. At 9-8, you've cemented a nice foundation. I just don't subscribe to the, well, they've accomplished a lot of good already. Guys, you were sitting at 7-7, essentially with destiny in your hands. If I told you they'd lose two of the last three, you'd be like, that's bitterly disappointing. Well, then don't change the answer now. 248-539-9797. I'd like to mix the Lions in. And look, the backdrop is the backdrop. It's time somebody in this town puts a winning record on a board. Actual results. Finishing a year where you won more times than you didn't. That's not a high bar. But I have a bad feeling that many of you who subscribe to Losers Illustrated are going to tell me that they've already accomplished enough. And that I will fight you on. Kenny, where are you? I mean, you had to be in a low place.
Yeah.
Christmas Eve.
That was not the Christmas present I wanted to open up, that's for sure. But, I mean, yes, that was a tough – you're right. That loss stung. But even if you can get past that, if you would have said to me at the beginning of the season, you're going to be a 7-win football team, I would have been like, all right, I get that. That makes sense. It was the total was what, 6? 6.5?
6.5.
And I said the goal is to be over 6.5. That is the bare minimum this team must accomplish. But as the season rolled on, especially during that winning streak, it turned into the bar has to move. With success, the bar has to change. And I'm no longer acceptable of just 7 wins. It's not enough. They need to go out. It's not a want. They need to go out. I need them.
So you need them to win.
I need them to beat the Bears. That is an obvious bare minimum. But I need them to go on the road and not do what they did in Carolina. That was not acceptable. They need to show up. And I don't think Dan Campbell, if Dan Campbell's worth his salt, he doesn't allow that to happen again. Well, because they didn't look competitive.
No.
It wasn't close.
And I'm sorry. I don't think the Packers are any good.
And what Lions fans will tell you is this is the SOL moment where Aaron Rodgers, even if they're completely out of it, comes back and just steals your soul because he's the spiteful guy that he is. Well, guess what? Stop him.
Just win the game.
Stop him for your season. Win the game.
Now, do you place like the backdrop of it, Kenny, is this all this town's done for so long is loose. I think it's important somebody breaks through. Maybe people don't value that. I don't know. Maybe they don't give a damn.
For what, the last 5 years minimum, we've been talking about teams that haven't finished 500? What was it, 16 or 17? Regardless, that's not – one team does have to break through, whether it's the Red Wings or the Lions. The Lions are in a damn good position to do it.
And it's right here.
And it's right in front of you. You should be favored in both of those games, if you ask me.
So I want to know where you're at. Obviously, it doesn't make sense for me 3 full days later to go yelling and screaming about it. I'm not going to do that. I'm bummed out about it because as that day unfolded, everything you needed to happen happened. Everything. You had a playoff spot in your control. You gave it away. Now, how you respond to that, I think, is vitally important. But maybe you agree, maybe you disagree, and that's what I want to get into a little bit. 248-539-9797. And I'm happy to bring both fan bases in the mix because a lot of Pistons fans are angry. And look, I think you have every right to be. Blowing a 14-point lead with 3 minutes to go. Dwayne Casey, the player development's not there. They're the worst defensive team in the league. And, I mean, your owner's a ghost, which is largely a good thing, so he's not embarrassing himself courtside. But, what are we doing here? Oh, but Cade's hurt. Okay, so what? We go out and win 14 games? No, absolutely not. It's completely embarrassing. Completely embarrassing. Kenny, what do you got on Ticket Text? Talk to me.
The Lions really need to win the next 2 to stave off a surging Rodgers and Packers team. Finish with a record above 500 and 5-1 in the division would really change the narrative of this franchise.
And I think it would help you, at least mentally, in believing what I'm going to sell you this spring and summer. I expect you to win this division next year. Period. Go ahead and laugh. I'll make the case all offseason. I expect you to win this division next year. Well, this is how you finish what you started.
Remember when Campbell said we're not losers anymore? Well, look where we are now, losing again. Winning out is essential. And then you have other fans on the opposite. At 7-10, the season would feel like a success, especially after that slow start. I disagree.
And again, that's why you're a loser. Not you, Kenny, whoever wrote that. Getting to 7-7 to then lose the last 3 games of the year, and that's still a success, you're a loser. You're a loser. You get out of life what you tolerate. You're a loser. You have a high tolerance. That's crazy to me. Crazy. I mean, the Giants stink. But you know what's going to happen if they lose to the Colts Saturday? Pure fury for me and the entire Giants fan base. Why? Oh, no one is going to be saying, well, the Giants aren't ready to win. We're not a finished product. You are at home against a deadbeat, broke penis Colts team. Beat them and go to the playoffs. Yes, we're going to get murdered. I don't care. Show up. Jacksonville fans. Do you think Jacksonville fans, do you think it would be any different if I'm doing Jacksonville radio? They had the number 1 pick in the draft last year. They have a winner-take-all game against the Titans last week of the season. Win the game. If you don't win the game, it's a failure. Win it. I don't want to hear about, well, they're not quite ready. Losers. Come on. What do you mean they're not quite ready? They weren't ready when they powerbombed the Giants. They weren't ready when they had a gutty win against the Jets. They weren't ready when they beat the Pack. Guys, you climb the mountaintop. Don't trip over your balls and fall back down. Come on. That's what it's about, man. Let's go do it.
I just don't get what missing out on these expectations are. I think once a season evolves and you get into a certain
you
position,
can change them.
Right. You're not stuck to what you were at week 1. It doesn't make any sense.
The only thing you can do is a great example. Lions, Giants, Seahawks, Jags. Hey, man, if you go to the playoffs and lose, no one's mad. You're not expecting to win a playoff game because we know you're not that good. It's not about the Giants winning a playoff game. It's about in year 1 with Brian Daboll flipping a culture in New York where they haven't made the playoffs in, 6 years? And it's losing and losing and losing. It's yes, it matters. Yes, it's foundational. And I just come from a world, you either did or you didn't. It's in writing or it didn't happen. Like, having a winning record or not, it matters. Making the playoffs or not, it matters. I think you bring up a great point. Having that record in division allows you to sell to your players. We already did half the deal. We dominated this division and went 5-1. We're going to win this MF next year.
There's definitely a look how far we've come mentality to it, especially after the disaster that was last year. If you find yourself winning all these divisional games, maybe poking your way into a playoff game if you beat Green Bay,
right?
That sends a huge message to this culture and to this team. You want to really change the culture?
That's right.
This is how you do it.
Yeah, and guys, look, I admit it, right? I've been here for almost 2 decades. I'm on the air with you 5 days a week, 4 hours a day. I've watched a lot of losing in the last decade. Maybe you think I'm overboard. Maybe you think I'm hypersensitive to it. I just don't come from a place where losing in any time period is acceptable. Well, this is in New York. You're right, it's not. Because you people tolerate losing. I don't. I don't. And to me, that Carolina game, maybe I should be yelling and screaming about it. But it's probably good that Christmas Eve and Christmas Day and the day after took place because I'm not going to do that. That'd be fake. It'd be scripted. I'd be just as bad as some of the TV people nationally. Clearly, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. It's outrageous. It's just answer, right? Get up off the mat and answer.